Makes me happy.
Okay. Good morning. Today I'd like to give an update on the CARES Act grant that St. Louis County has received from our federal government. Over the last several months, my administration has met with several St. Louis County municipal leaders and many stakeholders to help us determine their need, make sure a portion of this funding can go to local governments for the public safety expenses associated with the public health emergency of the COVID-19 pandemic. Based on information submitted by the Municipal League of Metro St. Louis and supported by several of our municipal leaders, I've set aside $47 million to be available to our incorporated municipalities in St. Louis County through the Municipal Relief Program. This program will provide municipalities with financial support for certain eligible expenses, including public safety and other costs incurred in anticipation by our municipalities for their COVID-19 response and recovery efforts. Additionally, our administration has allocated millions of dollars of CARES Act funds for humanitarian relief and public health support in our areas of St. Louis County that have been disproportionately impacted by COVID-19. We believe this allocation represents an equitable framework. A web-based application for the Municipal Relief Program is now available at stlcorona.com/municipal. St. Louis County is committed to ensuring that the Municipal Relief Program funds are distributed efficiently and effectively to our municipalities. Clear documentation and accurate reporting is essential to manage compliance and minimize the possibility that some of these uses may be deemed ineligible, and therefore the funds would be required to be returned to the U.S. Treasury. stlcorona.com will continue to be updated with additional guidance, documents, and other relevant resources as they become available, and there will be a point of contact in my office to help with any questions. The COVID-19 pandemic has created unprecedented challenges in our community. This necessitates the cooperation and collaboration across all levels of government in our region. We will work to meet the needs and protect the health of all of our residents in response to this COVID-19 pandemic. I also want to give you an update on the Small Business Relief Program that has been funded by the Federal CARES Act grant. We have approved more than 1,300 applications totaling $15.6 million, and $12 million of funds have already been delivered to our small businesses in St. Louis County, and checks are being cut weekly. We now have approved 90% of the valid applications, 1,662, and more applications will be approved by the end of the month. On the Transparency portal, you can see which small businesses in our community have received funds and how much they have received. We are on pace to have all $173.5 million in funds delivered in our community by the end of the year. These funds were received in April. We have spent $42 million of those funds, and another $24 million of checks are in process of being delivered. All but about $10 million of these funds have been allocated in our community, and we will work to make sure that those funds get to the areas where they can have the greatest impact. My concern at this point is that we may not have enough. This pandemic will continue into the rest of 2020 and into the winter of 2021. Our transparency portal at stlcorona.com will be updated daily, and you'll be able to follow along to see how our funds are being spent. I want to thank all of our staff for their patience, their hard work, and their compassion as we work to get funds to our businesses, our residents, and our nonprofits so they can respond to the COVID-19 pandemic. For those who have questions, there will be a webinar and guidelines for technical assistance on Friday, and you can find more about this on our website at stlcorona.com. And we'll also have a program manager assigned to help the municipalities with their compliance and documents, and this person will be former Congresswoman Joan Kelly Moore. thank you, and I would be glad to take questions.
Dr. Payne, your reaction to the resolution passed by the county council last night that included language encouraging fall sports to resume. You had expressed some concern about that when you had announced the decision that some fall sports won't go forward. Your thought on this resolution?
Well, 37 states have moved or somehow altered their fall sports or moved them to the fall, and we're following that pattern. I believe at this point most of our schools in St. Louis County have indicated that they will also be moving their fall sports to the fall, but that paperwork will be filed with the State High School Athletic Association, I believe this week. But we aren't canceling fall sports. We're offering them the opportunity to compete if they move to the fall. Some fall sport to spring. I'm sorry. Some fall sports will be moved to the spring, and they'll have the opportunity to have a full schedule with full competitions in that framework. We're following the guidelines that have been developed in our public health department, along with some of our advisory groups. The resolution addressed reopening schools, which we're working very closely with the school superintendents to do that. We have a plan, and I believe that all of our schools will be releasing their plans to get students back into, starting with our younger students, getting back to an in-classroom learning opportunity as soon as it's safe to do so. So, I certainly appreciate the resolution and the guidance from the council. I believe that we're in agreement on many issues, not in agreement on some, and that's how government works. But we'll continue to follow the guidance of our public health experts and our medical community, and work cooperatively with the pandemic task force as we work to keep our residents safe, especially our youngest residents and our kids.
Does it concern you that the council is sending a message of we support sports going back now, when there's a different message coming from you?
Well, this is how government works. Everyone has differences of opinion, and we work to, work to process those. But the main point of the council, I believe, in the resolution was about getting our schools open and getting us back into an in-classroom learning opportunity for our kids. And the school sports conversation will continue. It's complicated. We will work with all of our advocacy groups, our public health officials, and our hospital leadership to find the safest path forward, working closely with our superintendents as well.
Last week you had announced when the sports issue came up that you were recommending or giving the green light, if you will, for school districts to start reopening with their youngest students.
Yes.
Yesterday, Rockwood announced that they're going to start with pre-K through second grade at the end of this month. Your thought on these districts starting to move back to in-school instruction, and do you see a path forward for older children like middle and high schoolers?
The most important challenge in our community right now is getting kids back into school in an in-classroom learning opportunity as soon as possible, and when it's safe to do so. And we need to give our superintendents and our school staff and our teachers and our parents the opportunity to work out that plan. And each school district, has unique needs, and each school district will work on a timeline that works for them. And our public health department is supporting their decisions, supporting their reopening plans, and trying to make it as easy as possible for them.
You had also talked about, I'm looking also for a reaction from you on the measures by Councilmember Fitch and Councilmember Harder last night that were voted down, that would have given the council more oversight, if you will, over the county executive and the Department of Health when making decisions about pandemics. Early on, we had this discussion as well, where questions had come up about whether there should be more oversight when you initially started divvying out CARES Act funds. Do you think there's a legitimacy in having more oversight from the council? Is there some kind of middle ground that needs to be reached? Where do you stand on those issues?
Well, the give and take on our public health orders go back to the beginning, and it's resonated throughout our country. Should we have a mask mandate? Should we have stay-at-home orders? Should we have public health orders that limit the spread of COVID in our community? And that has a philosophical home in our community. And there will be philosophical differences on that. But we believe that the public health measures that we've taken to protect our community have left St. Louis County in a better place than it would be otherwise. And they were effective, and I believe they were the right decisions. And I believe it's the right decision to follow the guidance of our public health experts and of our medical community and not get too wrapped up in the political philosophies of whether or not we should have mask mandates or people should wear masks, or whether or not we should have stay-at-home orders, or whether we should take measures to protect people in our community or protect our kids.
Do you believe there needs to be some county council oversight? Is there a?
Well, there's an enormous amount of county council oversight. What we're doing now is getting into a little bit of a rhetorical debate in an election cycle. And that's what's going to happen, and that's what happens in elections. People discuss their approach to government and criticize the people who are in charge. And everybody can wade through that in whatever way they feel comfortable. But there is an enormous amount of oversight. We have oversight committee hearings where we present the spending and where it's going, and we listen to the feedback of the council members, and we incorporate their ideas and how these funds are distributed. But that's, the transparency portal is there as well. We can follow along with every dollar that's spent, where it goes, and what it's been spent on. And that's a system we set up. It has an incredible amount of oversight, and the council members that want to participate in these decisions do so. But it will always be flavored a bit by political arguments and political debate that is part of the election cycle, and we'll live with that. Other questions? Doug, you have anything?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We just get Chris job.
Chris has been a
Ryan.
regular here.
Sorry,
Pandemic.
He said